All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever wondered if history actually repeats itself? I mean, especially when you look at the rise and fall of these huge global powers. Well, it turns out there's a pretty clear pattern that's been playing out for the last 500 years.
I mean, just think about it. From the Spanish Empire, which was literally swimming in silver, to the British Empire, where, the sun never set, and then, boom, the sudden collapse of the Soviet Union. Time and again, superpowers that looked absolutely invincible have, well, consistently hit a wall and faced a pretty dramatic decline.
So it really makes you wonder, right? Is this all just a coincidence? Or do these empires all fall in kind of the same way? Are there like recurring patterns or common economic warning signs that pop up when a superpower is feeling the pressure? Well, history seems to be shouting, yes, there are.
Okay, so let's break down the first pattern. And it's a big one. We see it across the board. Massive military overextension. Basically, it's when a superpower's global ambitions get way, way bigger than its wallet. Their reach starts to exceed their economic grasp.
And to give you a little modern context for that age-old problem, look at this. Maintaining a global military presence on this kind of scale is, you guessed it, incredibly expensive. And that right there is a huge theme we see pop up again and again in the stories of past superpowers.
And this right here, it just perfectly illustrates that core problem. I mean, look at Spain. They poured almost half of all their money into the military, which led to them going bankrupt over and over again. And the British Empire? Their global commitments basically drained their bank account. It's the same story. Trying to police the entire globe will eventually stretch an empire's resources right to the breaking point.
So what happens when you've got all that external pressure, all that constant spending overseas? Well, it almost always leads to our second big pattern: serious economic problems back at home. This is where the consequences of that global ambition really come home to roost.
And one of the very first things you see is just a massive pileup of debt. And it can get so extreme. I mean, get this. A nation can find itself in this totally wild situation where just paying the interest on the money it's already borrowed costs more than funding its entire military. Think about that for a sec.
So how on earth do you manage a debt that gigantic? Well, history shows us that empires often turn to the same trick. They devalue their own currency. Back in the day, Spain did it by literally mixing cheap copper into their silver coins, basically watering down their money. Today, the method is a bit more high-tech. You just increase the money supply by trillions. But the end result is exactly the same. It has eroded 98% of the US dollar's buying power since 1971. So the method changes, but the outcome doesn't. The money in your pocket just doesn't go as far.
And this kind of financial maneuvering often happens right alongside another major shift: the hollowing out of the country's real, productive economy. It's an old story. Spain pretty much stopped making stuff because, hey, they could just buy everything with all that silver. In a similar vein, the US has watched its manufacturing base, once the absolute engine of its economy, shrink pretty dramatically.
So, here's the key takeaway. This isn't just a random string of bad luck. It's a domino effect, a predictable pattern we see over and over. You start with global military overreach. That leads to crippling debt. To handle the debt, you devalue the currency, which wipes out people's savings. And all the while, the part of your economy that actually makes things starts to decline, and people begin to lose faith in the system. The most important part? This isn't something that happens overnight. It's a slow, interconnected process that unfolds over decades.
So look, the goal here isn't to predict the future, but to try and understand the maps left behind by the past. These historical cycles aren't some kind of crystal ball, but they do leave us with a really powerful, open-ended question to think about. Are we recognizing the echoes of these same patterns today, or are we maybe just living through another chapter of a very, very old story?